Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Aquí Alba con ustedes en el canal Seriela para hablar de libros y algunos en español desde Puerto Rico. Hi people, we're going really fast tonight because I'm doing a tag. I'm doing the Booktube Top Tens Tag that I saw and I've been thinking about for the longest time, but I had to get twice the number of books because I'm not going to leave out my Puerto Rican books. No voy a dejar mis libros en español y los que son de Puerto Rico. Have to talk about those. And those are the ones I'm going to talk about first. What was my criterion? The emotional impact that they had on me. How I remember them. And remember, I'm an older person, and some of these books are books that I read when I was very young, but I remember them forever. So that's how I picked them. The first one in the Spanish pile, in Spanish language or Puerto Rican pile, I don't have it. I must have lent it out. I had 2 copies and I can't find them. Tiempos Revueltos de Vionet Negretti. And this was a historical novel about the 1950 insurrection in Puerto Rico. And it was also a romance involved there. It was a very interesting book. The next one is a nonfiction, which caused a lot of controversy here in Puerto Rico. And that's called War Against All Puerto Ricans. It was first published in English by Nelson A. Dennis, who was a legislator in the New York State Assembly, New York State Assembly. And it immediately came out in Spanish. One of his readers was so struck by the book that he volunteered to translate it, so it came out in Spanish, and I have both. You already saw this one on one of my recent videos. I read this when I was very young about Puerto Rico. It's in Spanish. Puerto Rico, una interpretación histórico-social by Manuel Maldonado Dennis, which had a brief history and overview of Puerto Rico that really, really stayed with me the rest of my life. Saw this in a recent video also. This is how I think that history should be written. With a lot of historical context. He went back to the history of China, but then he brought us to Puerto Rico and how the Chinese population first arrived in Puerto Rico and why. And yeah, he's a professor of Chinese extraction, Jose Lee Borges, a professor at the University of Puerto Rico. Love this story. I'm not a short story person, but I love these stories. Las Noches de Riel de Oro de Magali García Ramis, especially a story that I'll never forget, and it's a very humorous story. El retrato del dominicano que pasó por puertorriqueño y pudo emigrar a mejor vida a Estados Unidos. She has an eye. She has an eye. Magali García Ramis. Just fantastic. Then, you've seen this before many times, Family Installments, Edward Rivera, Memories of Growing Up Hispanic. This is a diasporic novel about immigrating from Puerto Rico to the United States. Another historical novel based on El Cerro Maravilla, The Massacre of Cerro Maravilla, written by Wilfredo Matos Cintrón, El Cerro de los Buitres. I just read this last year and was blown away. Wonderful novel. And it's based on the true story, the true massacre of El Cerro Maravilla, and this is the definitive history of Cerro Maravilla by Manuel Manny Suarez, who used to be a reporter at El San Juan Star. 2 lynchings on Cerro Maravilla. This is one of my rereads every year. And then, I don't have it. I don't know what happened to my copy. Cien Años de Soledad de Gabriel García Márquez. I'll never forget what I felt when I read that book for the first time. And you saw this here. I will link to my review of Mayoral by Ramon Edwin Colón Prats. Yeah. I hope that he presents this book finally someday in Ponce. And then, number one, of course, my recent read, El Resplandor de Luzbella by Juan López Bauzá. I'll be starting to read the rest of his back titles pretty soon, I hope. And then, in English, Gloria Naylor, Mama Day. It's something that I will never forget. Beautiful book. Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. These are books that I read or from the library or that on ebook. This I read on ebook recently, Mother to Mother by Sindiwe Magona, South African writer. Really struck me in the heart. A Fine Balance by Rowington Mystery. This I read from the library. I borrowed it from the library in New York when I was teaching there. And I was totally immersed in India at the time that this happened. And I love books from India. Then I'm a link to the video that I did on The Natural Way of Things by Charlotte Wood. I have to get this one in physical form, for real. Then I recently read this one. This is going on the top 10. The Known World by Edward P. Jones. Masterful, masterful work of art. I told you that I go this list. I've done this list according to the emotional impact that it had on me. And one of the books that nonfiction book that has had an impact on me is King Leopold's Ghost by Adam Hochschild. I had no idea of the history involved in the Congo until I read this book. And I'm looking forward to reading his Spain in Our Hearts about the Spanish Civil War. This was a wonderful read. The Black Count by Time Rice. I had no idea that he was going to talk about the father of Alexander Dumas and who he was and his accomplishments in life, and that he came from the island of Santo Domingo, Haiti, and how rich Haiti had been. Next, The Shock Doctrine, nonfiction by Naomi Klein. This was a fantastic read for me. It was eye-opening. I learned a lot, and I could definitely identify parallels with what was happening in Puerto Rico through her descriptions of other economic situations around the world. Naomi Klein. I have 2 or 3 others of hers that I have to read. Another one that almost caused a heart attack. I read this when I was very, very young. This is a copy that I've recently ordered to replace the one that I lost some way. I read this when I was younger and was absolutely shocked. Shocked. I couldn't get over it. Number 1, is Sophie's Choice. And if you have never read Sophie's Choice, read it. By William Styron, I think it is. By William Styron. That's his name. I'll never forget when I got to the part of Sophie's Choice. I think I cried for 2 or 3 days. I couldn't get over it. So yes, those are my selections for the Booktube Top Tens tag. It took me a while to think of the answers, but when it came down to those books that really stayed with me and have stayed with me emotionally all these years, those are the ones. So I'm going to link Jason's original video down below, and please try to do this tag so that he can continue with his purpose, which is to make a list and gather data about what are the top 10 books among booktubers. So thanks. Nos vemos, mi gente. Cuídense mucho. Adiós.